everybody, and welcome to this edition of HCAM Sports Talk. I'm your host, Tom Nappy. On today's show, we'll take you through the MIAA Winter State Championships. They took place this past weekend. Certainly some really good games. We will show you the recaps. Plus, we'll talk some March Madness and maybe some NFL. Unfortunately, the guys couldn't join me on the show today, so it's just me. And it's just going to be a half-hour show today as we have a brand new edition of TVL Sportsnet that is premiering right after we're through here on HCAM Sports Talk. So only a half hour today, but a lot to get to. So without further ado, let's get right to it. Some terrific state championship games took place across the MIAA this past weekend, and we got to show you all about those. We're going to take you through the scores. We have the basketball and the hockey finals, and there was also the cheer finals going on, and you had some track as well. But we're going to take you through the basketball and hockey finals. Some absolutely terrific games. The hockey finals took place at the TD Garden, while the basketball finals took place at the Saga Center over in Lowell. So here you go. Here are the scores. Here is the hockey finals right here. Terrific games that took place, and these are in the order of which they were played. And they were all played on Sunday, March 16th at the TD Garden. You had the D4 boys final, Winthrop taking the win over Dedham 3-0. And then you had the D1 girls final. Hingham got the 5-2 victory over Bishop Stang. And then in the D1 boys finals, a little bit of an upset. Four-seeded Catholic Memorial scoring with 18 seconds left in the third period to capture the 4-3 victory over St. John's. And what a story St. John's is. They started off the season really rough. I think over the first half of the season, they were around 500 or maybe even below, but really turned it around to get all the way to the state championship game. But they fell short to Catholic Memorial by a final of 4-3. And then in the D2 boys final, you had Billerica take down Canton in double overtime by a final of 3-2. D3 boys, Nauset took the win over Medfield. Tough loss for Medfield. And what a tournament they had, getting all the way to the championship game. But they fall a little bit short to Nauset by a final of 4-1. Then in the Division II girls final, we got to congratulate Medfield, a TVL rival for the Hopkinton Hillers. They got the win over Woburn, 3-0. And look at those seedings in that D2 girls final. Medfield, the 13th seed, Woburn, the 6th seed. So a lot of upsets took place in that bracket. Medfield, the 13th seed, they ended up getting a win in the semifinals game over first-seeded Westwood. So really impressive for Medfield to get all the way to the championship game. And not only get to the championship game, but they took the championship game over Woburn by a final of 3-0. Very impressive stuff by the Medfield Warriors. And perhaps we'll have some bonus highlights for you later in the show on some of these great Medfield runs. Medfield with 3 teams in state championship games this winter. They had boys hockey, and girls basketball. And speaking of basketball, let's get to those scores right now. There they are. Games took place the 15th and the 16th over at the TD Garden. It was absolutely terrific. So there are the basketball scores. We'll start off with Division I. The Franklin boys getting the 55-52 win over third-seeded Newton to take the Division I boys final. And I'm very happy for Franklin. As somebody that used to cover Franklin, for a previous job I had. Uh, it was tough watching them get to the state championship. They had such a good program; they'd get there like every year, but then they would run into one of those private schools that could recruit from throughout the state, and they'd have a hard time as many of the non-recruiting schools, such as Franklin, often do. So it's great to see Franklin go to the finals this year and take the title over a very good Newton program, 55-52 in that one. Then in the Division One girls final, you had first seeded Wachusett take down second seeded Bishop Bean by a 55-54 final. Very impressive win for Wachusett, and they are just an absolute powerhouse when it comes to girls basketball. Then moving on to the Division Two finals, in the boys' side, you had first seeded Malden Catholic fall via upset to sixth seeded Somerset Berkeley by a final of 65-44. Somerset Berkeley taking the title game. Division Two girls, congratulations to the Medfield Warriors. They defeat sixth seeded South High, and not only defeated them, but really absolutely crushed them. 62-20, a dominant win for Medfield. Funny enough about that state championship game, it was actually a rematch of last year's state championship game. So, and Medfield took it last year as well. It was a lot closer, though. I believe the score was like 49-42, but this year they get it done in dominant fashion, taking the victory 62-20 over South High. Congratulations to the Medfield Warriors. Moving down to Division 3 on the boys' side, Norwell took down Old Rochester 64-61. Congratulations to Old Rochester. They go into the tournament as the 20th seed and get all the way to the championship game and kept that championship game very close with Norwell and nearly almost got the win. So congratulations to Old Rochester on quite a run there. But Norwell victorious this year in the Division III Boys State Championship. In the Division III Girls State Championship, St. Mary's defeated Norwell 46-38 in what was a very good competitive game, good back and forth, gritty battle, but St. Mary's pulls it out. Moving down to the Division IV finals, on the boys' side, sixth-seeded Georgetown defeats fifth-seeded Monument by a final of 61-54. Congratulations to Georgetown. Division IV girls, first-seeded Cathedral defeats third-seeded South Hadley 68-37. Big congratulations to Cathedral taking the championship in that very competitive bracket. And then in the Division 5 finals, first seeded Pioneer defeats second seeded Hopedale 49-28. Congratulations to Pioneer and congratulations to Hopedale on a terrific season. Then in the Division 5 girls finals, you had second seeded Hoosick Valley taking down fifth seeded Renaissance 64-57 was the final in that one. And there you have it. Your MIAA 2024-2025 state championship scores. Congratulations to all the teams that made it this far. I mean, even just to make it to this state championship level, it is just very impressive. So a big congratulations to all the teams that were able to make it to this point. I'd say, with this new state tournament format, getting to that championship game is really one of the toughest things you can do. All these teams should be very proud of what they have accomplished. Win or not, I mean, you made it there. You should be really proud of the season that you just had. But very impressive stuff. Very impressive stuff by the TVL in general. What was it? 34 out of 40 teams in the TVL made the state tournament. Uh, so that is just unbelievable. That's 82% of the teams, and we had a similar result in the fall as well. 82% of the TVL also made it in the fall, almost exactly 82%. I think it was like 82.5% in the fall, 82% in the winter. So it's right there. But most of the league, most of the TVL getting into that state tournament, and it's not easy. It's not easy. And not all leagues are like this. You look at the TVL and say, wow, almost everybody made it. Not all leagues are like this. The TVL is really, it's special for that reason because of how competitive it is and how many teams end up getting into the state tournament from the TVL. It just shows you how competitive it is and how tough of a league it is to have that many teams get in. And it also shows you, I mean, with the state tournament format and the ranking system, you need to book teams that are either better than you or in a league that is further up than you are. So if you're Division 3, you're playing Division 2 teams, you're playing Division 1 teams, you're playing Division 3 teams. But that's what you go for, especially with those non-schedule games. And that's a trend that the TVL has done. A lot of teams in the TVL have transitioned into going for those upper league games, and it has paid off. And that's why you're getting a lot of teams out of the TVL that they get enough of a ranking to get into the postseason because they play up, because they're not afraid of tough competition, tough non-league games. And that's what it's all about. So the more tough you make your schedule, the easier chance you have to get into the postseason. And we certainly saw lots of great TVL teams in the postseason, and lots of great teams as a whole make that postseason tournament. So it was a lot of fun to watch this year. And believe it or not, we got spring season starting up. It's already started. Practices are in session. You got scrimmages coming up. And then before you know it, you're going to have regular season games. And don't forget, we'll have regular season games live on HCAM. We'll be trying to broadcast all the home games, and it's going to be a little more difficult this year because not only do we have the standard baseball, softball, boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse, outdoor track competitions, this year we are adding boys volleyball to the mix. We got boys volleyball games that will have live on HCAM. Last year, it was technically their first year last year, but they were not officially in the league. Last year, it was essentially a tryout season. They played exhibition games, no playoffs. They didn't have to go by the 20 game mandatory schedule. But this year, all of that changes. This year, they need those 20 games if they want to get into the postseason. And everything's on the line. And there will be a postseason for the Hopkinton boys volleyball team. Well, I mean, perhaps. Of course, they got to get in first. But they are eligible to make the postseason. And they had a really good first year. They did excellent in those exhibition games. So I think if they have what they had last year, it would surprise me if you don't see Hopkinton boys volleyball in the state tournament. They were loaded with talent last year and really had a good exhibition season. But this year, it's for real. They are official, and that means we're officially going to broadcast them live on HCAM. We got our friends Steve Sweetapple and Matt Clancy. Actually, Matt Clancy can't cover the team this spring because I just found out he's actually a coach. He is a lacrosse coach over at Holliston High School, so he'll be busy with his lacrosse team. But a big thank you to Steve Sweetapple for stepping up, and perhaps you'll also see Steve's daughter on some of the calls as well, Emily Sweetapple. And who's Emily Sweetapple? Well, for those of you that follow Hiller girls volleyball, you know exactly who Emily Sweetapple is. She is the head coach of Hiller girls volleyball. So perhaps Steve will be able to rope her into some of the broadcasts. We certainly hope to have her, and she'll just she'll provide an insight that is so interesting from a coach's perspective. It'll be like nothing you've heard on really any volleyball coverage. You'll have the head coach of the girls team hopefully announcing some of these games and just giving you unbelievable insight. And she communicates very well. She's very smart. She knows the sport, obviously, and she's a fantastic coach. So I think she'll be fantastic in the booth as well. So we'll have Hiller Boys Volleyball, Steve Sweetapple, hopefully Emily joining for some of the broadcasts. I'll be covering a lot of baseball and softball myself, and I'll be on the lacrosse games. You won't see me so much for boys volleyball. Maybe I'll hop in there once in a while, but for the most part, I'll be on baseball, softball, and lacrosse. But looking forward to it. And the Hiller baseball, softball, and lacrosse team should be really good this year. So I am very excited for the upcoming spring season. Should be a lot of fun. Don't forget to stay locked into our website, hcam.tv, as well as our social media pages to find out where we will be. We'll post the HCAM Hiller broadcast schedule every week, so you'll be able to see exactly where we will be. But we're going to step aside. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk some March Madness and some other stuff. You are tuned in to HCAM Sports Talk. This program is brought to you in part by TVLSports.net. You can view the standings, stories, pictures, highlights, and more about the 12 teams in the Tri-Valley League at TVLSports.net. TVLSports.net is an independent news and media website reporting on the TVL and is not associated with the MIAA, Tri-Valley League, or any town or school. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to HCAM Sports Talk. Tom Nappy here. All right, so we took you through the high school state championships for basketball and hockey. Again, congratulations to all the state champions and all the teams that made it to that point. Really just an unbelievable accomplishment for all those great programs. But now we're going to talk about some other great programs. We got the college March Madness tournament coming up. And it's starting, believe it or not, this week, Thursday, is the first round. I'm very happy. I'm actually going to be going to a couple games over in Providence, so I am thrilled for that. And I'm going to be sure to hopefully get some good video there as well, and we'll share it on the show. But I am looking forward to it. I went to March Madness for my first time last year and had the privilege of watching UConn get a terrific, I think it was a round of 16 win over Illinois. They absolutely dominated. And of course, UConn went on to win the NCAA championship. Will they do that again this year? I hope so, because I must admit, I am a UConn fan. But I am a little bit skeptical of their chances this year. They've won the last two NCAA championships. This program's fantastic. Their coaching is fantastic. But I just don't know if they have the talent this year. And it looks like the teams around them have taken a step up. I mean, you get the Florida Gators, who are just on absolute fire right now at the right time going into the tournament. And UConn is ranked, they're all the way at a 12th seed this year. So it's going to be, or no, excuse me, they're an 8th seed. They were 8th seed playing 9th seed in Oklahoma in the first round. I think, and they're in the West bracket, by the way. And I think UConn can get through that, but they get through that, more than likely, they're going to meet up with the Florida Gators. That is going to be a tall task to take down that Florida Gators team. They have looked really good. But I'll tell you what, March Madness is a different animal. You don't know who's going to beat who, and that's the glory of it. That's what's so fun about filling out a bracket. Uh, Throw the seeds out the window. Anyone could beat anybody. What was it, 2 years ago? We saw the first 16 seed ever beat a first seed. And then we saw like a 15 seed beat a 2 seed as well. And it was like the second time ever that happened. So the leagues are getting closer and closer in how competitive they are. Each year they are more and more competitive. Those smaller conferences, those smaller leagues, they're getting up there. They're getting to the point where they're almost neck and neck with the ACC or the Big East. It's just become a lot more competitive over the years. You're seeing more upsets than ever, and anything can happen in this tournament. That's what's so fun. Now, I'm ter I'll self I gotta admit I'm terrible at filling out brackets. I usually lose miserably. I haven't had any success the last few years, but I'll show you who I got because why not? That's what we do on this show. I give you my predictions and I hope you don't follow them. And if you do, I hope I win. But if you do, I'll just give you a heads up. You might not be too happy because I haven't had much success at brackets the last few years. But here it is, my bracket. Here you go. You can see it all. I got Florida getting in there. There's my All right, here's my final four. Florida beating Texas A&M in my final four. On the other side of the bracket, I got Duke and Houston. I'm probably going to regret leaving UConn out. I got UConn. They're in the West bracket. Here they are right here, playing Oklahoma. I got them winning in the first round, but then Florida beats them in the second round. That Florida team is so good right now. I just don't think anyone's going to beat them. This game could be very tough if this happens, Florida Texas Tech, but I'll be shocked. But anything can happen. But the Gators, they are hot at the right time. So I got a lot of faith in them. I think it'll be Florida Duke finals. Duke gets back there. Duke's really good this year. I don't have a lot of faith in, I got faith that Houston will go far, but they always blow it. Houston could be one of the one seeds that get knocked out early if anyone does. Part of me is like, should I even have them in the final four because they've been knocked out early a lot in recent tournaments. They've been so highly ranked. They're always up there in the rankings, but they always get knocked out early. So, like I could see Georgia upsetting them. Maybe I'll do another bracket and have Georgia win because I could totally see Houston losing early, but they are good. I mean, they're one of the highest scoring teams in NCAA basketball. So, they've been pounding opponents lately. They got one of the best records, one of the highest scoring teams. So you'd expect them to do big things, but seriously, folks, regular season stats do not matter when it comes to March Madness. Really, anything can happen in March Madness. The other Final Four I got from someone on the show, I asked all the guys to send them in. The only one that did is Steve. So thank you, Steve. But Steve's Final Four is Michigan State, St. John's, Duke, and Houston. So he thinks Houston's going to get in there. I got Duke and Houston too, so we're in agreement. He's got Michigan State and St. John's on the other side, so we're not quite in agreement on that. I got Texas A&M and Florida. So he's counting out the Gators. He thinks they're going to be a floozy, I guess. He thinks the Gators aren't for real. I guess we'll see, Steve, won't we? But folks, do your brackets, have some fun with it. I mean, you probably have as much chance of being knowledgeable at it and doing a bracket than you do if you flip a coin and do a bracket. So if you don't know a lot about college basketball, you can always flip the coin because that might just work for you. I've actually heard of people that has worked for. They've actually predicted a reasonable bracket by flipping a coin or drawing team names from a hat. That's how up in the air this tournament can be. So should be a lot of fun, but it's March Madness, one of the best times of year to be a sports fan. We just had the high school playoffs. Now we got the spring season starting up. And oh yeah, we got baseball opening day right around the corner, believe it or not. So it is a fantastic time to be a sports fan. So I hope you all get to watch some great games and have a good time with your friends, family, and loved ones. But we talked some Patriots last week. They made some big signings they really bolstered up their defense, made some tremendous signings. And Their defense is certainly going to be a lot better. There's a lot of question marks, however, around their offense. They still have not done, since last week, really, they haven't done much on their offense. So I'm starting to get the impression that they are going to really rely on the draft as far as their offense. I don't think you're going to see a lot of free agency moves as far as the Patriots offense. But here we'll show you the signings for those of you that missed it last week. Here they are. Joshua Dobbs, backup quarterback. He's been around the block. He's coming to town. Matt Collins, probably the biggest offensive signing. He agreed to a 2-year, $8.4 million deal. If you remember, he was on the Buffalo Bills last year, and he was a guy that was a fan favorite, made a lot of big plays for the Bills. He's a big dude, big, powerful receiver. He's fast, too, so I like that addition. They brought back Austin Hooper to a 1-year, $5 million deal. I love that. He had a great season last year. He was one of the very few bright spots in the Patriots offense, so happy he's back. They got an offensive tackle, Morgan Moses, very good offensive tackle. They certainly need to bolster that offensive line. You gotta protect the kid, protect Drake May. So I'm glad they got Morgan Moses. They got edge rusher Harold Landry, former Titan. Vrabel has experience with him. He's coming to town on a 3-year, $43.5 million deal, so I'm happy about that. And then they bolstered up the defensive line a bit. They got Milton Williams, who was one of the top free agents. He was an Eagle. Actually, he played like halftime. He wasn't a full-out starter, but a lot of the critics think he could be. And he was a guy that a lot of teams were going after to bolster up their defensive line, and the Patriots got him. So glad to see they're spending money. They have a lot of salary cap to spend, so glad to see that they did there. They also got Kairos Tonga on a 1-year, $2.7 million deal. Another good piece for the defensive line. He'll be a guy kind of in that third, fourth, fifth role that you slip in there, and he'll play like 33 to 50% of the game. You got Robert Spillane. They got him on a free agent deal. He actually didn't play much last year. He was a Raider in the past. He was injured a good amount, but if he is healthy and ready to go, he could be huge for that linebacker core. And last but not least, they got Carlton Davis on a 3-year, $60 million deal. So he was on the Lions last year. Great cornerback. And you could put him on a number 1, number 2 receiver. So that's a big signing right there, Carlton Davis. TVL Sportsnet, brand new edition, premiering next if you're watching on the premiere of this show on Wednesday. But brand new edition, TVL Sportsnet. And then we're going to have another TVL Sportsnet next week as well with state championship highlights. So 2 weeks in a row of TVL Sportsnet. But for everyone at HCAM, I'm Tom Nappy. As always, we thank you for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll talk to you again soon. Goodbye, everybody.